Hi Homeworthy, I'm Tina and welcome to my home in Columbus, Ohio. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Tina Thompson. I'm a content creator and welcome to my house in Columbus, Ohio. So we bought this house 3 years ago. We were in a bigger home and our boys had both left home. We were empty nesters and we had kind of dabbled with downsizing. I wanted a house out in the country. My husband was like, no way, I don't want any yard work, I want a condo. So we found this unit, and it really is kind of a combination of both. It's a house, but it also, he doesn't have to mow the lawn, he doesn't have to really do any yard work. We have this wonderful screened-in porch that like backs up over a stream, so I feel like I'm out in the country, but we don't have all the work, and we're at the age now where we just want to travel, and my boys both live in LA, so we're there quite a bit, and to have a home that we can just lock up and leave is the ultimate reason why we moved here. But when we bought this house, it was literally built in the 90s and it was still all 90s. It was awful. So we pretty much gutted the entire thing. We opened up the kitchen, we gutted all the bathrooms, we put wood floor throughout. So we made it the way we wanted to make it. So that was 3 years ago, and here we are now. So here we are in the living room. The one thing that people talk about all the time when I post my reels and my stories is my gallery wall. So I'm not a big art collector. I just collect what I love, and that's kind of the whole story that I'm trying to get across in my Instagram, is that you surround yourself with the things that you love. They don't need to be precious, they don't need to be expensive. They can be expensive, but most of my things are not. They're all secondhand or thrifted, or they have a story to them. So the gallery wall, I started with this piece here, and this kind of anchored the whole wall. This is an old store sign that I found years ago at an antique store. I passed by it like a couple times and then went back like a month later because I was obsessed with it and I bought it. And this is kind of I had this in my old house too. This is what anchors the entire wall. Then I added on. These pieces are from my mom's hometown in Germany. So again, everything on this wall has meaning to me. I love candles, light them all the time on my Instagram feed, so you'll see there's always lit candles. This was probably the last piece that I added, and at first I thought it might be too much color, but I actually love the color to it. It's not a known artist, it's just some random person that painted this that I found in an antique store. Then again, I used to ride when I was young, so I have a lot of horses all around my house, so you'll see a lot of that. Gallery walls do not need to be just art. These are old hubcaps that I just thought were really interesting, and I like anything that's got like old wear and patina to it. The number 9, my husband's favorite number is 3, so 3 threes is 9. This shelving unit is literally just a shelving unit from IKEA. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore. Everybody always asks me about it. They make a bigger one, but they don't make this low one anymore, and it's literally 3 units. I topped it with old slate tile roof tiles. Then I've got my tray of bourbon that I love. This is Tina right here. I've framed some memories. This is a menu from my 60th birthday a couple years ago. This was from my eldest son's wedding. I framed that because I wanted some type of a memory. I obviously love books, so I surround myself with a lot of books. This is an old ladder from an actual apple orchard, and I just loved the sculptural aspect of it, so I loved that as a piece of art up against the wall. These guys actually came from a store that I used to work with, an interior store. They were part of a lamp, and when the lamp broke, I thought, well, I'm still going to use them. So now they're just sort of sculpture. and I love them. I love them so much. Probably one of the only new things in this room that we bought when we moved into this house 3 years ago was this sofa. I love a good leather sofa. The more you live with them, the more broken in they get, and I love a good leather sofa. This table, this is an old restoration hardware table. It's probably 25 years old, and when it started getting worn instead of replacing it, this is one of my things that I'm very adamant about, is not replacing your things all the time, but maybe repurposing them. So what I did was I found this old slate piece from an old chalkboard in an old school and had it cut to the size of my table and put that on there. This chair is my pride and joy. This is my $10 Goodwill chair. Chrome, leather. Every time I sit in this chair, I think, oh my God, I found this at Goodwill for $10. It's the best. So, love that. Again, another candle that's lit. I'm an animal lover, so I have, artwork that's got animals in it is one of my favorites. So, when we bought this home, it had this old, 90s fireplace surround. So we ripped all that out. We got an old beam from a barn and had this installed over the fireplace, and then I had slate put around the fireplace. Hanging artwork is also something that I never measure when I hang artwork. I hang it wherever I feel like it needs to go. Most people would say, why are you hanging this so low? But I actually love the way it fits in there. This piece was probably the very first piece of furniture we ever had when we got married. My in-laws gave us this. They bought it in North Carolina. It's an antique, and it has moved with us like every other thing that I own, from house to house to house. Again, everything has a memory attached. People ask me about this bucket all the time. This is an old bucket made from vintage tires, and I use it to hold cutting boards and things that I use. So it really serves a purpose. This piece here is an old bus sign, but it's really not old. I bought it at the Restoration Hardware outlet years ago. I just loved the black and white. So my background, really, I have done so many things in my life in terms of career. I would say my most successful career was probably my stay-at-home mom era. I was a Montessori teacher to start before I got pregnant. And as soon as I got pregnant, my husband and I decided, okay, we can do this. I'm going to be stay-at-home mom. So I did that for years until my boys went to college. And then when they went to college, it was time to reinvent myself. So I'm the type of person that always needs to be doing something. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just get a part-time job. I got a part-time job in an interior home store. And from there, I did some interior design. I then went on to work in a boutique as a fashion stylist and did that for a few years. And then I kind of got tired of that and I quit cold turkey. A year later, my daughter-in-laws both said to me, you really should share with the world the things that you do, the things that you're good at. And I hate to talk about the things I'm good at because I feel like I'm bragging, but some things just come naturally to others. And I think that interior design and fashion have just always been passions of mine, and they just come natural to me. So they encouraged me to do this Instagram thing, and it blew up overnight. The reason I blew up overnight, and who knows, but it could have been the algorithm, who knows what it was, but I truly believe there's a niche that's missing in Instagram, and that would be someone my age, somebody authentic, someone that's not young doing, trendy stuff. I think people want to see real. I think people want to see older people. And I may be wrong, but I feel like that's probably part of the reason. I also feel like, when I do these Instagram shoots, it's just me. I have a young girl who I love, who is like my daughter to me, that does all the filming and editing for me because I'm old. I don't know how to do all that technology stuff. So, but when we shoot, we generally do, one take. It's just me. It's just who I am. And I think, there's no filter. There's no, I'm not trying to make this perfect. This is just who I am. And I think there's a need for that in social media today. So here's my pride and joy, my kitchen. This is where we spend all of our time. When we bought this house, this kitchen was awful. It was definitely 90s. We had green granite countertops and really bad quality cabinets, and it was 2 separate rooms. So we had a dining room, and then we had this small kitchen that didn't even really lay out well. So we gutted it. We took everything down to the studs. We went through the wall here, and we added all new cabinetry, floor to ceiling. My favorite thing about this kitchen is my red stove. So we were on a budget when we did this house. We did put a lot of money into it, but we were on a budget. So all of my appliances were seconds. They were all like damaged in some way. So I got them, for a steal, which I love. Anything that's a bargain, I love. It's just like the thrill of the hunt. I love to surround myself with older things that have patina, things that have stories behind them. And I feel like in a kitchen especially, your kitchen shouldn't just be a kitchen. It should actually be a room where you have antiques mixed in with your cabinetry. You have patina and maybe the cutting boards or some of the old things that you're putting in there. Lamps are a definite must in my kitchen because I hate overhead light. So I have lamps everywhere. I have artwork in my kitchen. I want this to feel like a cozy room like the rest of my house. People ask me about my stainless steel kitchen table all the time. This is another example of repurposing what you have already. You don't need to buy new. You can use what you have and repurpose it. So this was an old table that my parents had bought for us when we lived in our old house because we had this huge banquet area and we needed a big enough table to fit it. So they bought me this table, and as years went by and our kids used it and colored on it, and it just needed to be refinished. And instead of refinishing it, I thought, how cool would it be if I had a stainless steel topper made for it? And that is why this table exists today. So one of my favorite stories in my house is this table. Here's a good example of mixing in old with new. So we've got this kind of cold, sterile stainless steel, but I've got this giant old patinaed bread bowl. I have an old candelabra that I found in an antique store that's hanging on the wall. I have old oil paintings, old pieces of like an old dresser that just, instead of having more cabinetry, I wanted to have some warmth in this room. So I put in an old dresser here, an old dresser over there. And then also, I like to use things that you wouldn't normally use for specific things, like a garbage can. This is an old metal hamper that I found. It's an old bathroom hamper, but it's metal and the paint's like chipping off, and it's just, the patina is so great on this thing, but I use it as a garbage can. So it adds some visual interest to a kitchen that could otherwise be sterile. Then there's this old butcher block restaurant thing that we bought years ago at also an antique store. It was used in an old butcher shop. So when we got it, we literally had to scrub it and sand it down. But instead of putting like a ready-made island in my kitchen, I wanted something unique and something, again, with some patina and something that would make it look a little bit more like a room and less like a kitchen. So this is where I store all my pots, my mugs. These have gotten a lot of comments on my social media platforms. You love it or you hate it. And I would say most people love it, but I've had a couple haters, so that's all right. I love it. People ask me about my coffee maker all the time. It's a restaurant coffee maker. And the story behind this is, honestly, I looked forever for a coffee maker that didn't have plastic components on the inside because I hate the idea of all the plastic. This was the only one I could find, and it makes great coffee. And it looks cool. I've never used a designer in my life. This was all, when we moved in, I knew the type of kitchen I wanted. I knew I wanted Carrara marble because I've always loved Carrara marble. I love even the idea of the Carrara marble getting etched and stained, and I don't treat it, I let it get old, and I want it to look like an old world kitchen. The design of this kitchen was just really my husband and I saying, okay, we want one whole wall of cabinetry, and I want it floor to ceiling. I don't want a wall. I don't want a dining room. I just want one big open kitchen, because to us, family is the most important thing in the world. So when we have family over, this is where we gather. I don't want them to be in a dining room, me to be in the kitchen. So we opened it all up. It also gives it more light. Everything kind of just fell into place. We knew exactly how we wanted to have it. When I found this red stove, I didn't plan on having a red stove, but I found it and I knew I needed to make it work. I think a lot of the reason I decorate the way I do is my background. My parents are both German. They moved here from Germany in the 60s. All my relatives live in Germany, so I spent a lot of my childhood in Germany and Austria, and I spent a lot of time in France. I majored in French, and I think there's something about the old world kitchens that spoke to me, and it's kind of become ingrained in just how I decorate. But definitely the kitchen was the hub of the house, and they decorate so much differently than we do. They surround themselves with old things. They like to repurpose things. They don't buy new if they don't have to buy new, and they live in their kitchens. And I think that's where the inspiration came for me. It's just ingrained in me. It's just how I see the world. It can't be all new. It has to be older. It has to be cozier. And that's how I feel like I decorate. My favorite thing about this house is definitely my screened-in porch. I never had one, and I always thought I wanted one, but now that I have one, oh, it is my favorite thing in the world. As soon as it starts to get warmer, I'm eating breakfast out there. I'm working out there on my computer. My husband and I sit out there every evening and have a glass of wine and kind of catch up on our days. That is definitely my most favorite part of this entire house. The most important thing to me in a home is really, your home should tell the story of who you are. You should walk into someone's home and feel like, oh, I know Tina. I know who she is just by seeing how we live, the things we surround ourselves with. And I feel like there is a way of decorating that is very sterile. People tend to decorate because they're following trends, or they want their house to look like a museum. That is not what I'm trying to achieve with my home. My home should be a big hug to me, I'm surrounded by the things that I love, and they tell the story of who you are, why you're here. Everything in my house, and I mean everything. Anything in my house, if you point to it, it has a story. And that's because I've collected it over years, and even if it's newer, it still has a story attached to it. I might have gotten it for my chair at Goodwill for $10. But every time I look at that chair, it's going to remind me about that time of life and that feeling I had when I found it. So homes should be a reflection of you. They should not be this perfect canvas staged for other people to see. It should just be your refuge. Here is my favorite room in the entire house. This is my screened-in porch. As soon as the weather gets warm, I'm out here. If I have to wear a sweater or a coat, I don't care, I'm wearing it. But we have this small little space here that I have tried to make as cozy as possible. I have my plants out here. There's a story behind all the furniture out here. When we moved here 3 years ago, we had never had a screened-in porch. I had a patio, but I didn't really have furniture for a screened-in porch. So we have an Our House outlet here in Columbus, and we thought, well, let's just go check it out. And the day that we went there, they had all the outdoor furniture that they had left from last season marked down to $59 a piece. Every piece. My table, my chairs, my couch, every piece was $59. It was like, that was one of those times that I will always remember every time I sit in here. Wow, this was only $59 and I made it work. So again, here's another good example of me mixing old and new. So we've got the new table, but then we've got like antique pots. We have antique horses yet again, because I love my horses. And I'm big on candlelight, so I do a lot of candles. I'm not a big fan of the fake battery candles, but I have to do them out here because when the wind blows, the candles go out. So again, old. This is an old pigeon coop that I use as kind of a side table. I've got these old pots that I've bought at, salvage. This came from a salvage place. This is an old antique. I believe it may be an olive jar. I do a lot of sheepskin because it's comfortable to sit on. But this right here, this is where I sit and have my glass of wine in the evening with my husband. He sits at the table, I sit here, we each have a glass of wine, I have a bowl of popcorn, and we talk about how the day was. I also like to sit out here on the weekends with something to read and a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and I work at the table with my computer all the time. This is just, I'm surrounded by nature here. This is my little house in the country. A lot of the things that I surround myself remind me again of my childhood, and because my parents grew up in Germany and we spent a lot of time in Austria, you see a lot of these, racks hanging in people's homes or in hotels, and there's something very cozy and warm about them. And I think also the patina on these old kind of mixes with the new, the white walls and the new furniture, and just gives it more of a cozy feel. I'm a perfectionist in certain ways, but I'm not a perfectionist in what I bring into my home. I like to mix things up. I guess I could call myself a curated maximalist. I like things. I like to surround myself with the things that I love. And the best way to sort of describe my style is more Parisian eclectic, less American, less staged, more like we live in our home. And I have collected for years the things that I surround myself with. So even when we moved to this house, I didn't buy all new for this house. I used what I already had. If I needed something new, I would buy something new, but I generally like to buy older things, thrifted things, and I like to reuse things, use things in an eclectic kind of way. Like I like to use things that you wouldn't expect, like old doors for headboards, things like that. So really I'm probably a curated maximalist, and we live in this house. So what you see is what you get in here. My mom had the most incredible interior style eye. I feel like some people just have an eye, and I'm a very visual person as well, so I think I learned it from her. She was always on a budget when I was growing up, but she made our house so beautiful and so eclectic and just gorgeous, and loved to collect things like I like to collect things. And in fact, she probably collects more than I do, but it just works. I learned it from her, and I hated it when I was growing up. I hated it, but now I really appreciate what she taught me, and I see how talented she really was. So now I'm walking down the hallway. It goes from the front door to the living room. There used to be a doorway here into the kitchen, and then on the other side of the wall is where we put that whole wall of cabinetry. So we closed this doorway up. When we closed it up, I happened to be at an antique store and I found this giant, it's got to be at least 12 feet long, this bench. We moved in, and the next day I walked past and I saw that my husband had put all of his Gucci loafers underneath this bench. And at first I was like, oh God, but you know what? It's hilarious. And now with all the content creation I do, I get so many comments about these shoes. They're all the same. They're all exactly the same. But he loves them and he doesn't wear any other shoes. So we made it work. There's a good story right there. I love these old antique mirrors, and I love the fact that this one does not have a mirror in it because it makes it a little bit less perfect. So I'm not about perfection. I'm about like the little things that are rough and used and old. So my queen's head is a good example of buying what you love. Years and years and years ago, it's probably been 30 years ago now, I was at an antique store that was going out of business, and they had this old pub sign. People ask me about this all the time. This is an actual pub sign from England, and the pub was called the Queen's Head. So I had to have it. I mean, talk about patina. It's all roughed up, and I think there's actually some bird poop in the corner because it was outside. It was hanging out. So I leave it the way it is. We have a very small little entryway. Our house is not very big, but I do believe in having a little table in the entryway. So I found this little table, and I have this little battery-operated light that my husband turns on every night, so it's a little cozier in the evening. So that's my little entryway, guys. Follow me up to my office. So there's a story about this loft here. It used to be, oh, it was awful. It was all wall-to-wall carpet. And we had this open window here, which scared me to death because it was open to the living room. And all I could think of is my dogs climbing up here and falling out. So I had seen windows in homes that were like old industrial windows, that this is what I wanted in here. And I had this window made by the Amish out in the country. They handmade this for me, and I had it installed, and I love how it adds to this room. There's this couch that people ask me about all the time. It's actually, again, from an outlet that I found. It's supposed to be a sectional, and it's missing a piece. So I got an amazing deal on it. And I put one piece here, one piece here. I covered it with pillows and sheepskins because my dogs are always laying on it. And this is where I hang out and watch movies in the evening with my dogs. This table, this is the first antique I ever bought. When we first got married, I went to an antique store. I found this table. I fell in love with it. I remember thinking, oh my God, I can't afford this. But I had to have it. And it's this old French farm table. It used to be a kitchen table. I cut the legs down so it would be lower for a coffee table. But this table has moved 4 times with us, and I will have this thing forever. It's a good example of keeping your stuff, repurposing them. If you love it, it will always work. Big on lighting again. I don't like overhead light. So I put a lot of lamps and lighting. People ask me about these sconces all the time. These are just IKEA sconces that I spray painted black. Artwork that I've collected over the years that mean things to me. This was a gift from my mom years ago. This is another one of those IKEA shelves. This is the taller version. I love to style up a shelf because I have lots of books and lots of things. And I love to have my things around me. Everything on this shelf is pretty much old except for the books because I love to collect old things. And there's not necessarily a really great story attached to it except for I loved it. People ask me about this all the time. It's an old bowling pin. And I don't even bowl, but it's so like chipped up, and I love the color red on it, and the patina on it is just amazing. So again, If you love it, you buy it, and it serves its purpose as a sculpture, I guess you could call it. This is an old ashtray from the 1950s that I found that I love, and I don't know if this is a dog or a horse, but anything with an animal on it I love. So, and I love pewter as well. So again, pewter and patina, that's there. I also bought this because I loved it. These are my two boys when they were babies. Another thing that I love to surround myself with. And my books. And the other thing I love are old stools and chairs. This one's got great, it's just this is actually an old milking stool for milking cows. But I just loved how old and beaten up it was. And it just kind of adds some dimension to like the new shelving unit. I do very unusual ways to store things, and instead of having another shelf or a file cabinet, I have an old Ella Bean bag that I keep my stuff in. So that just sits out as well. This house is not very big, so I didn't really have a designated office space. So a good friend of mine had given me this metal table, and I thought how perfect to create this little area here for me to work. And this has become my little pseudo office area. Again, surrounding myself with all things that I love. We didn't have a lot of light up here. Even though we have this big window, we only have this. So I did a whole wall of mirrors to kind of reflect any light that comes in here and makes it a little bit brighter. But again, I surround myself with my books and my things and my memories, and I love sitting here. I get so much done. Instead of doing curtains, I thought, why not do an old flag? I love my windows open. I don't want to distract from the view or the light, so I just hung this old flag from the one corner. And here we go again with the deer heads. I had to have, this might not even be a deer. I don't know. It's big, whatever it was. But I love it. I love the patina. I love the fact that there's old with like the newer mirrors. And this is a sculpture that my mom bought for me, so there's a memory attached to this. Everything has a memory. This is my eldest son, who's big into skateboarding. And I've got my youngest here as a baby. I've got my grand dog. That's a picture of me that my dad took. All the black and whites in this home are taken by my dad. He was a doctor, but his hobby was photography, and he was an amazing photographer. So I'll show you some of his artwork as well. These chairs, these are old Herman Miller chairs. Love them. Found them for a steal somewhere, had to have them. And I love, again, the idea of this modern table with the older classic chairs. Another mini chair. I love my mini chairs. They're great for books. I love a pop of red in any room. Just is the perfect color to add to any room. This is an old shelf that my husband and I bought in the very beginning of our marriage. I think at one point we had it in our bathroom because we didn't have bathroom storage. Now I use it to hold all my books and as kind of a console to the TV. My mom gave me these, so these have special memory. This is artwork that my dad did, both of these that I love. And this is an old birthday card that he wrote me that I framed. And again, here we are with the little stools. I love the stools, but what I loved about the stool was that green color and that the paint is chipped and it's old, and it's just the perfect combination of old and new. This is the guest room. This is where the magic happens. This is where we do all of the content creation and the content filming. And if you follow me, you're going to recognize my rack of clothing. And I'm generally standing by the rack of clothing and I'm talking about what I'm wearing, what my outfit of the day is. And by the way, let's talk about my outfit of the day. I do a lot of stories on vintage Levi's. This is one of my favorite pairs. It's an old pair of 501s, really old pair of 501s. This shirt I literally just found this weekend. I went to the Springfield Extravaganza, which is this huge flea market, antique market that's held twice a year in Springfield, Ohio. And this woman makes these. In fact, I asked her if I could do a story on her, but she didn't want to make them for other people. So anyway, this is a handmade shirt. Somebody took this shirt, it's a men's shirt, and they repurposed it like I like to repurpose my things. So, and I'm wearing a pair of silver Gucci shoes. This is my outfit of the day, guys. Talking about the Springfield Antique or flea market, shall we say. There's a vendor there that I love. I found this amazing jacket. This is an old liner, military liner, that was reworked, where they put all these patches on it, and it's probably gigantic on me, but I love it. So if you ever are if you're big into vintage shopping and vintage clothing, you need to go to the Springfield Antique Market. But look at how cool this is. So definitely got two great pieces this weekend. All right, this room is a really good example of how I use or repurpose old things in ways that you wouldn't expect to use them and mix them with new. So, for example, that's an old cabinet door, but I loved the patina on it. It's so old. I couldn't even tell you how old it is, but it's chipped and worn, and the green paint is just perfect. And same with this one. This is just a different one. So there's a place here in Columbus called the Columbus Architectural Salvage, and they literally go through old homes that are being torn down, and they take all the cool stuff out of them. So they have doors and, oh my gosh, you name it, they have it. Doorknobs, anything that you could possibly want from an old home they have, and which is where I got these two cool doors. Then in terms of new, these are just new bed frames from IKEA. These are old IKEA dressers that I've had forever, that have moved with us from home to home. Obviously have to have a big mirror in the creation room. This is an old mirror that used to hang in my parents' home that, every time I look at it, reminds me of growing up in my childhood in my old home. I also love to do old boxes to hold things. So I keep jewelry and things in here. And this is just an old tool or fishing tackle box. This old artwork is it's an old museum poster that was framed. And it's literally, if you saw the back of it, it's literally falling apart, but that's what I love about it. So this is old. This is old. Then there's this amazing green chair that I found. And literally when I find things, I don't know where I'm going to put them. I just find it. I'm like, oh, I got to have that. And I always seem to find a spot to put it. So this chair ended up in here. Another thing I love is to surround myself with things that have history and that, have a story to them. These old Louis Vuitton suitcases here belonged to my mom, and my parents did a lot of traveling, and she literally would check these Louis Vuitton suitcases, and then she'd carry Louis Vuitton onto the plane as well. So I will probably never use them because I would never check them, but I'm using them as decoration because they mean so much to me. This is an old black and white that I found at an antique store. This is probably the only black and white in this entire house that my dad didn't do. It just spoke to me, and it cost $20, so how can you not buy it? Old, chippy side table here. Somebody's old stool. I had to have that. And then the artwork, again, I just surround myself with the things that I love. They're not expensive. They're not, precious artwork, but they're precious to me because they mean something to me. This is the room. This is where everything happens. This is the bathroom that I get the most questions about when I post anything about it. When we bought this house, It was the most god-awful bathroom I've ever seen. It had cabinetry all along this wall, and it had this weird column of cabinetry that came down, and this fake stone countertop, and cabinetry all down below, and terrible cheap tile. So I had always had the idea of doing 2 pedestal sinks, but then when we started the construction, we realized there was like plumbing all underneath here. So I came up with the idea to do just hanging sinks without the pedestal, and then to build this ledge for me to be able to store towels and all the things that I need to store where I don't have cabinetry in here. So, but I also like to display my things. So that's why I love this. But this is also another good example of, you know, your bathroom is like your kitchen. It shouldn't be sterile. You should have things, old things that give it warmth and that give it life. And for example, I've got this old stool here, metal and old wood, and I use it to hold my cosmetics and things that I need to get to. I've got this great artwork and this cool candelabra that I found, more artwork. I love to display, you know, the old bags that I have, and I use them. I actually use them for storage. I put things in there. So we retiled everything. I'm a big believer in vintage rugs in a bathroom because I feel like it really warms it up. So I found this vintage rug. I don't overthink when I redo a home. I don't overthink it. I just pick what's classic and I know it's going to last forever, which is why my entire house is painted in white. The same with tile. You can't go wrong with subway tile. It's inexpensive. It's always classic. Keep everything white and then decorate around it. That's kind of my credo. This room in here is where the shower is and the bathtub. It's really small, but I get a lot of comments about this artwork. This is an old, well, that's not an old piece. It's actually a piece I found at Home Goods of all places, but it fit this area just perfectly. Then this piece is another good example of putting an antique or piece of furniture in your bathroom to make it a little bit warmer, less sterile. This is an old cabinet. It doesn't even close right anymore. It's so old. I bought this for $30 at an antique store. And then again, I'm displaying my stuff. I'm really big on lamps in a bathroom and a kitchen. I think it gives it a cozier light. And instead of putting a bath mat, I put a little goat hide on the floor. And you'd be surprised. It really does really wick the water for sure. So that is my bathroom, guys. So this is actually my bedroom. I sleep with the dogs. So this is Skip. He's my little shadow. And this is Bo. Bo's a little tired this morning. And yes, they do sleep on the bed. That's why I have it covered up. This is a new bed frame that I think I bought off of Amazon that now I'm surrounding with old things, like an old shutter instead of artwork. That's a rattan shelf from IKEA. And it just brings warmth in. This is a sketch that I found for literally $7 at an antique store. There was a whole pile of them. It must have come from like a student that was sketching nudes, but I framed it and it now hangs over my bed. So again, there's a story to everything. This piece I bought years and years and years and years ago. It used to just be pine wood, and when we moved into this house, instead of getting rid of it, because it didn't really work in here, I just painted it white. Then again, I've got this stool, because you know me and stools. I have to have stools everywhere. This is an old bamboo shelf that I found also, and I hang my bags off of there because I like to display them instead of sticking them away in a closet. Then there's my chair. I do a lot of work here. Sometimes I read or I work here. I had to get this pillow because this is literally the personality of Bo. I don't know if you can see the middle finger there, but so This is my room and the dog's room, so I sit here quite a bit and get some work done, and the dogs lay here and keep me company. Then at night, they go into their rooms, which is right here. That's Bo's room, and that's Skip's room, and they have their own dog artwork over their beds in their rooms. This piece, we've also had from the very beginning of our marriage. I think we bought this at the Ann Arbor Antique Fair years and years and years ago in Michigan, and it has moved from house to house to house with us. This is an old German train schedule that I found at an antique store, and I had to have it because it reminds me of my childhood. We took so many trains when we were in Germany, so I had to have that. Then I love to layer things. So I found this old mirror and I layered that on top, and then I've got my boys here. And again, an old banker's box where I keep my jewelry. Home to me is that sigh of relief when you walk in. It's that refuge in this life that we're living that is hectic and stressful at times. And when you walk through that door, if you can't sit down and feel like, wow, this is my home, I created it, and it's everything that I love, and now I can relax.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.